as lawmakers in Washington are battling out over who will be the next Speaker of the House. In Ohio, across that Brent Spence Bridge from where President Biden was today and a little ways towards Columbus, the battle for the state speakership ended up with a bit of a surprise. The moderate Republican Jason Stephens was able to form a coalition with Democrats to beat Republican leader Derrick Merrin in a shocking upset. Stephens received the support from every Democrat in the legislature and 22 other Republicans, and it allowed him to defeat Merrin 54-43. The success comes after Merrin had won the vote to become leader of his party in the new General Assembly last month. Now, something similar also happened in Pennsylvania yesterday as a narrowly divided State House Democrat, Mark Rossi, despite a temporary Republican majority, ended up the speaker. Rossi has pledged to govern as an independent. This actually happens, I'm not going to say it happens all the time around the country, but it happens more often than you realize. Whether it happens in Washington, that'll be another story. But I'm joined by Jeremy Pelzer, political reporter for the Cleveland Plain Dealer. And Jeremy, it does feel as if Ohio's Republican Party, frankly, has this similar divide as the National Republican Party. And I was noting Rob Portman was in the picture with Joe Biden today, not the person that replaced Rob Portman, J.D. Vance. So you tell me, Jeremy, is the Ohio Republican sort of, there's a Vance wing and a Portman wing, and is that loosely sort of what happened inside the assembly?
I think when you look at what happened in the Ohio legislature, it's more about power politics than it is about ideology. You only had about a third of, as you said, about a third of Republican lawmakers actually back the winner, Jason Stephens, for Speaker. Democrats took advantage of the opportunity. They saw an opportunity to not elect someone who favors things like a right-to-work law, abolishing the state income tax, other much more conservative policy priorities. And instead, they elected someone that they thought wasn't great, but was preferential to the alternative.
Is this a big win for Mike DeWine? I mean, this seems to me more in line of his style of politics, perhaps, where he does, sort of a center-right Republican versus, somebody that might want to have a more conservative agenda.
Well, Mike DeWine is a political survivor. He's been around for decades, and he's signed a number of fairly conservative proposals, including allowing guns without a permit in Ohio. However, as you said, Mike DeWine is more of a kind of a pre-Tea Party Republican. Jason Stephens, at least initially, we'll see how he governs, is much more in that vein than Derrick Merrin would have been.
Talk to me about the Democrats that went along with this. We talked about it nationally, and there would be a huge price to pay in the base of the Democratic Party for helping Kevin McCarthy in the same way there might be a price to pay in the Republican Party for working with Democrats, just how nationally polarized we are. Why did Democrats feel comfortable doing this in Ohio?
Well, in Ohio, Democrats have to take what they can get. With the exception of Sherrod Brown, there are no statewide elected Democrats, partisan Democrats in Ohio right now. It's with the exception of, some Supreme Court justices. And in the Ohio legislature, Republicans have the most members, 67, that they've had since we went to single-member districts in the 1960s. So when Democrats saw that they could actually play a role in who's speaker and perhaps get a more favorable speaker, they went for the opportunity.
Is there any power-sharing agreement, or is this simply an agenda handshake agreement, and Democrats are just banking on the new speaker governing as more of a moderate?
More towards the latter. There were negotiations. The minority leader for the head of the Democrats says that there was no deal, no grand deal struck. It remains to be seen how Jason Stephens will govern, and if he can govern. More than two-thirds or about two-thirds of the House Republicans didn't vote for him as speaker, and we'll see if he can actually pass things with a Republican minority on his side.
That'll be fascinating to watch. Jeremy Pelzer, the Cleveland Plain Dealer, really appreciate you coming on, explaining what happened here. It's a reminder, in these increasingly one-party states, those parties are actually too big to govern, and you're seeing fractures happen, whether in Kansas, whether in Oklahoma, now Ohio. Who knows, may happen in a big blue state as well. We've seen it in Massachusetts. Anyway, Jeremy, thank you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.